Hello, welcome back to Life on the French. Today we are doing a cooking video. We've done a number of cooking videos in the past, but usually we're following a different tutorial and testing that recipe to see how easy it is for regular people to follow, if it tastes good, if it actually works, etc. But today I wanted to film our own recipe. It's super easy. It's one that I did in college all the time once I had a kitchen, because like I said, it's easy and it's pretty inexpensive for the amount of food and meals that you get out of it. So I thought I would share it with all of you. So what we're going to be making is cracker ball soup. The reason it's called that is because we're going to be making a saltine cracker based dumpling. So you're going to need for every sleeve 1 egg. We usually use 2 sleeves, 2 eggs. For the base of the soup, the broth, we use beef. We use a round of steak. So use, like, we have a £1.3, like a poundish of meat. It's soup, so the amount of each ingredient is kind of to your taste, but that's what we have here. And we also use stew beef. The reason we use a round of steak is we use the leftovers. When I say leftovers, like you cook the steak in the soup and then you can reuse this meat, like take it out of the soup and eat it on top of mashed potatoes and toast with ketchup. It sounds weird, but it is good. And then you're getting the flavor in the soup, but also then the soup flavor goes into the meat. You're basically using the meat kind of twice and getting more bang for your buck that way. But you can also just use stew beef if you want to leave all the beef in the soup. So we have about a pound of this as well. And then you need an onion, celery, carrots, and a can of diced tomatoes. It's important that they're diced. You don't want crushed, you want diced. So the first thing that I'm going to do is wash the vegetables, and then I will be right back. So for today, I'm going to start with using about half the bag, so like 4 carrots. I'm going to skin the carrots with my potato peeler. Once you've skinned the carrots, it's time to chop the carrots. So with this, the size is kind of up to you. I just try to chunk it. It doesn't really matter. You kind of want to get them all the same size, but with soup, again, it's really not a big deal. You're going to be having it on the stove for so long, the carrot will cook through regardless. Okay, once you've got all of the carrots done, you can throw away the end bits and move on to the celery. Again, I'm going to use about half of this, so I'll see how many stalks and then let you know. I'm going to start with 5, and then if I need more, I will let you know. I don't use the leafy bits, just the stalk. And I don't use the white part at the end. You don't want to either. You just want the heart of the stalk. I'm going to add another stalk. These are just kind of small. I don't think you'd normally need like full-size 6 stalks. But again, with soup, it's really to taste, like your personal preference. So the more you make it, the more you'll know how much of each you prefer. Now this is a pretty small onion. It fits in like the palm of my hand. So I'm probably going to use this whole thing, but you don't necessarily always need to use the whole thing. So with the onions, you don't want a whole bite of onion typically when you're having this soup. So you want to kind of cut them moderately small, but I can't dice. You can see me cut now. And it's abysmal. So it doesn't need to be like a chef, it just needs to be small. Soup is very forgiving that way. you have like a chunk like this with the lines, you can easily just tear it apart when you dump it in. The worst part about this soup is cutting the onion. It was a very pungent onion, and I'm crying. Just remember, don't rub your eyes. It's too late. So, if you can look at our pot, I've added the vegetables, and now I'm going to add the meat. Putting some of the vegetables just on top. I don't know why. It's just something I've always done. I just don't want all the vegetables trapped at the bottom. I don't want all the meat at the top. So you've just added the meat, so now wash hands. Now the final step is to add the tomatoes. You want to take the lid all the way off because we're not going to be trying to like dump the juice. We actually want to use the juice in the soup. Okay, so we're going to pour this as is, I haven't drained it at all, into the soup. Easy peasy. Okay, now the next step is the water. So you want to add water so that everything is covered and a little bit more, because water is going to come off, you know, evaporate. So keep that in mind. Of course you don't want a watery soup, but typically you really can't add enough water at this stage because a lot of it is going to evaporate even with a lid. So I've added like an inch above where everything was before. As you can see, it's still like a little reddish. That's great. That's why we keep the tomato juice. So then put it on. I have it on high, so it gets up to boiling. I'm gonna leave it on boiling for a bit, and then we're gonna lower it to a simmer. In total, it'll be up on here for about 3 hours. The longer you leave it on, the more flavor it's going to have. It's my belief that you should leave soup overnight. So I'm going to let this come to boil, and then, like I said, simmer for until that 3 hour time period has come to a close. If you leave it on extra, all more too, you just need it at least, I would say, 3 hours to really get the flavor that you want. But because it's one of those things that's just kind of sitting, if you want to do other things, you can. My desk is over there, I'm going to be working, so, and the kitchen's right there. It works out. I'm going to make the saltine crackers tomorrow, because while you want the soup to cook overnight, you want the dumplings fresh. So this comes at the very end, before the 3 hour simmer. I have not forgotten the dumplings. It's later. And as an aside, we used about half the carrots and half the celery. And if you get a large onion, you can use half an onion. If you're like, that's a lot of food waste, I don't eat celery and carrots regularly. Same. So what we usually do is we go ahead and make a second soup, like a chicken soup, with the rest. For the chicken soup, we just use half a thing of carrots, half a thing of celery, and then we use like chicken thighs, usually 4 thighs, and the half an onion of a large onion or a whole small onion. Same thing, boil it till the chicken is cooked, simmer for 3 hours, and then add parsley before you serve at the end the next day. So you can get 2 things, and soup also freezes if you're like, I don't want to eat 2 soups, like soup for lunch, soup for dinner. The chicken soup will freeze, so you can put it in the freezer and wait until you want it after you've cooked everything, the 3-hour simmer, and then just add the parsley once you are reheating the soup, and then you can add noodles if you want to make chicken noodle soup. So that's a great way to get your money out of it too, and that's what we typically do. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so it's the next day, and we have the soup warming up over on the stove, and now it's time to make the cracker ball dumplings. So we're going to be using 2 sleeves of the premium, like original saltine crackers, but I like this brand the best. So this brand of saltine crackers.
Premium.
Yeah. 2 sleeves. We're going to go over to the blender, and we're going to blend them up.
It's a food processor.
Whatever. You can also, if you don't have one of these, put it in a baggie and beat the crap out of it. That's what we used to do at home. And now we have one of these. You can use a rolling pin. We have a guest.
I'm not here.
We don't have a guest. Dan's advice is to pre-crush the seeds.
So you can do 2 at a time. Just don't make a mess.
That's made a mess.
Like if the bag pops. Bartle.
Oops.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Okay. Now we use 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
1 egg per sleeve, if you want to adjust the recipe. Okay, then you just mix the egg. Make sure to break the yolk. Okay, once you've gotten into this point, it's time to get your hands dirty. Okay, now at this point, you have to kind of eyeball how much water you need for this. So,
for a range, I would say it's like a tablespoon or less.
yeah, it's not very much. That amount.
Let's see it again.
You kidder. You try to kid the kidder.
Oh, I did kind of miss it though.
Too much water makes it too dense and hard to cut.
Thanks, Heidi.
You're welcome.
Thank you, non-guest.
I'm not here.
Okay, so you want to have them about this size, and you want to make them into a ball shape. So once you make them all into balls, we're going to put them into the boiling soup, which is why you want to start by warming up the soup. So now we have our soup. So you can see we have the beef, we have the celery, the carrots, tomatoes, onion, and we have the cracker balls. This is what they look like when they're done. Ta-da! Of course, you want to salt because it's soup. Liberally.
Just a splash of salt.
Not for our family.
And I was gonna say something else.
Bon appetit. That's
we
what.
took out the if you're gonna be reusing the steak. So if you did the round steak stew meat combination, take out the round steak so you make sure you don't eat the round steak. Don't serve it. Other than that, bon appetit. It's very hot, but it tastes good. Non-guest, what do you think of the broth?
Very flavorful.
You heard it here first. Okay. And then for the cracker balls, you cut them with a spoon. It adds a bit of
It's a challenge, a little bit
Yeah.
of excitement.
adventure. You can cut them into a little bite.
A big bite.
That's a very good bite. And there you have it. An easy soup recipe.
Consistency is good. You did good.
Thank you. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our content, click subscribe, ding the bell button to know when we post. Most importantly, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!